You're all set.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to members of the public, members of council, staff to this November 2nd Committee of Adjustment meeting. My computer just fell, sorry. So I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5:32 p.m. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Councillor Lang. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Councillor Jaworski stated that she may be a few minutes late, so we have quorum and we'll continue the meeting without her. I'm assuming she'll be joining us shortly. Can I get approval of the minutes of the meeting of October 5th, 2020? Moved by Councillor McDonnell, second by Mayor Prevost. All those in favor of the minutes? Motion is carried. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5A-30 and 3120, Kuipers and Alford. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It'll just take a minute for me to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So welcome everyone to the meeting. For members of the public that are participating by Zoom or by phone, you will be permitted to speak to the respective application following my presentation. Prior to speaking, please state your name and address for the record. For those of you who are on Zoom and are comfortable, you can use the raise hand function and the chair will call on you. If you have registered to participate in the meeting by phone to speak to an application, you will be asked if you would like to comment on the application after the presentation. So now I'm going to read required wording under the Ontario Planning Act. This is a hearing under Section 44 of the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend this hearing and or make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed minor variance. If a person or public body does not make oral or written submissions at this hearing before the minor variance is decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the minor variance of the Committee of Adjustment to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, also known as LPAT. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at this hearing or make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment before the minor variance is decided upon, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the LPAT unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So I'm going to move on to applications A30 and 31. I will be presenting these applications together this evening as these minor variants are required due to a condition of a recently approved severance application for the same property. So this property is located at part of lot 36, concession 7, north of the Raisin River in Martintown, in the geographic township of Charlottenburg, now in South Glengarry. This is a location of where the map is. You can see this is the north end of Martintown. County Road 20 would be heading out of the village and Beaverbrook Road just to the south. And then I also have an image that shows how the property is going to be divided when the severance receives final approval. The pink implies that this is the area to be severed, and the blue implies that this is the area to be retained. So for the purpose of the minor variance, as I mentioned, the subject property was recently created by consent for residential purposes and was not able to conform to the minimum lot area requirements of the zoning bylaw, but didn't have reasonable grounds to refuse the application. Therefore, a minor variance was requested as a condition. So the purpose of the minor variance application this evening is to reduce the minimum lot area from 4,000 square meters to 2,499 square meters on the portion of the subject property known as the severed parcel. So to help put that into perspective, this is for application A30 for the severed portion. 4,000 square meters is 1 acre. And so therefore 2,499 is over half an acre. Now I'm going to show application A3120. So again, this was recently severed for residential purposes. And in this case is the exact same request. The property was literally divided into two. So therefore, A3120 is also requesting to reduce the minimum lot area from the 4,000 square meters to the 2,499 square meters, which is known as the retained parcel, and the retained parcel has an existing dwelling and septic system on it. This is a location, or excuse me, this is a section of the survey. Part 1 would be known as the severed, and part 4, and then you'll see the section in the middle. What that is that's a right of way. And so all of that was factored into when the severance was created, and therefore now triggering the minor variance to reduce the minimum lot area. So this property is designated rural settlement area, and that's because it's located in the village of Martintown, and it does conform to the general intent of the official plan. And it is zoned residential 1 and also conforms to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. Applications were circulated to applicable municipal staff, and planning and building have no concerns. The United Counties of SD&G was circulated on the application as the property fronts on a county road, and they had no comments or concerns. And to date, I've not received any public comments, phone calls, questions, or anything. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joanne, just for clarification, when you were talking about the right-of-way and the 4,000 square meters, does that include the right-of-way or is that separate?
That includes the right-of-way, so that's why the property is being divided directly into half. But the right-of-way wouldn't be developable, but it works out okay because the setbacks can be located within the right-of-way.
Okay, so it did include the 4,000, but now it's going to be the 2,500 square meters.
Correct.
Give or take, yeah. Thank you.
I can't see Councillor McDonnell, but I do have a question myself, Ms. Haley. So the part that's being severed, that is for a potential new lot for a building? Or
That's
is it going to, oh, it is? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so being in the residential zone, really the only permitted use is a home. So that will eventually, that property will either be sold and developed or developed by the applicant.
Perfect. And that must be the last property in the village limits?
It would be, yeah, very
I was going to say, it's got to be right at the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Councillor McDonnell, I couldn't see you. Did you have your hand up?
No, I didn't before, but I do now. I just wanted to speak to the application. I'm very familiar with the property. I know exactly where it is and well acquainted with it. I have no concerns, and I move to approve if there's no other questions.
Okay.
Perfect.
Mr.
Thank you for
Chair,
that.
if you don't mind, if we could
Yep.
just have a mover and a seconder for A30 and 31 separately, just for the purposes of the
Yep.
minutes.
Yeah. We spoke about that this afternoon. So we're going to do A30 first. Councillor McDonnell has moved it. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Lang has moved to approve as presented. All those in favor?
Mr. Chair, should you go to the public first before we vote to see if there's any concerns or questions?
Yes. My thoughts were that there was not anybody else on.
There's six people on, but
okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak or ask a question?
I don't see any hands raised.
I don't see any hands either. Okay. All right. So moving on from that, thank you. So we had Councillor McDonnell moving and Councillor Lang seconding to approve as presented. All those in favor? Okay, perfect. Motion is carried. May I have a mover and a seconder for A3120? Moved by Mayor Prevost, second by Councillor McDonnell. All those in favor of moving as presented? Approved. Okay, Ms. Haley, moving on to number 6, A32 and 33, and I believe this is the same scenario here in regards
Yes, it
to
is.
2 applications, 1 presentation.
So I'm just going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay, everyone can see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, thank you. So as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, this is the identical situation where we're dealing with the same property that recently has gone through the severance process. There we go. So applications A32 and A33 are located at part of lot 26, concession 1 front, fronting on County Road 2. located in the east end of Glenwalter in the geographic township of Charlottenburg, now in South Glengarry. This is a location of the property. You can see Ray Road. The yellow line implies the boundary of the urban settlement area of Glenwalter. So that's why it's at the very east end of the village. And then this demonstrates the severance. So the severance application for this property is known as B9819. This was one that was previously severed in 2018. So you can see that this property is essentially being divided into half. The reason why this severance was required and approved is because there was 2 dwellings on this portion of the property. And with the approved severance, it now allows each dwelling to exist on their own parcel with clear title that can then be more easily sold in the future. So with that severance approval, once again, the severed and retained lands were not able to conform to the minimum lot frontage and minimum lot area requirements of the zoning bylaw. So specifically for A3220, we're looking at reducing the minimum lot frontage from 40 meters to 36.6 meters and reducing the minimum lot area from 4,000 square meters to 3,640 square meters. So once again, 4,000 square meters is an acre and 3,640 is well over 3/4 of an acre. This is the sketch that demonstrates the proposed retained land showing the 36.6 meters of frontage. And so you'll see there's a dwelling on here, an existing septic system. Then I'm going to move on to A3320. So this one is to reduce the minimum lot frontage from 40 meters to 30.8 meters. This one does conform to the minimum lot area component, so it meets the minimum 1 acre. And this is the sketch showing this property. You can see it's wider, the dwelling, the field, or septic system down here, field bed up here, and then the road frontage of the 30.8 meters. The property in this case is designated rural district in the county official plan and does conform to the intent of the official plan. And the property is zoned residential 1 and conforms to the general intent of the zoning bylaw. It's always good to be able to sever a parcel of property with 2 dwellings on it to give people the opportunity to have that clear title. So these applications were circulated to applicable municipal staff, and our planning and building departments have no concerns. The United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry were also circulated, and they too had no comments or concerns. And the RSCA was very involved in the process to create these lots previously, and therefore have no concerns with the proposed and variances, as all the structures are existing and have gone through the review processes required for their approvals. And I've received no public comments, not even a phone call or questions on this application either. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor.
Just for clarification, Joanne, again, the 2 properties, the one that's retained and the one that's been severed, so are they the 2 houses closest to Highway 2, or is it Mrs. Kovanich is the one at the back?
The one at the back.
One is located closer to the water.
Yeah.
And then one is
one in the middle?
More in the middle of the property, I guess I would describe it, or maybe a little closer to County Road 2.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was the 2 going to the east or if it was the one in the middle and the one on the west.
Yeah, the one in the middle and the one in the west. The very eastern one already has an independent property.
Property. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see Councillor Jaworski has joined. Welcome. Ms. Haley, just a curious question. Were these houses built before the bylaws changed where you could not, because there was a time when you couldn't build 2 houses on one property? And I was always curious about this property. I know it's like, did they get a special exemption, or was it before that bylaw existed?
I'm just looking at the application, Mr. Chair, and that's a really good question. So looking at the application, they're telling me that the structure was built in 1988. According to our records, I didn't see any specific or special permissions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't applied for. Originally, this property had 3 homes on it.
Correct.
So, unfortunately, I just don't know your answer to be able to confirm that.
Okay, not a problem. It was just I remember when the property to the west was just covered in the last term. So,
Mhm.
Okay, are there any other
One of the other
questions?
dwellings, according to the application, was built in 1985, and a cottage was existing prior to that. So maybe they benefited from some grandfathering rights as well. So sorry
Right.
to interrupt, but
Nope, perfect, thank you. I'm gonna check to see if, are there any other questions of the committee? Seeing none, I'm going to ask, are there any questions of the public? I don't see any hands being raised, so I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder of A32. I didn't see whose hand went up first. Councillor Lang moved by Councillor Lang, second by Councillor McDonnell. All those in favor of approving A32 as presented? Carried. And can I get a mover and seconder for A33-20? Moved by Mayor Prevost, second by Councillor McDonnell. All those in favor of moving as presented? Application is approved. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 7, next meeting, November 16th, Ms. Haley?
it'll be at November 16th, and I have 3 applications that have been filed that will be circulated Wednesday of this week. So
Awesome, thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, may I get a move to adjourn? Moved by Councillor McDonnell to adjourn, second by Councillor Lang. All those in favor? Carried. We will see you at 6.